Santa Clarita, welcome. This is Sharon Brubaker. I'm a certified grief recovery specialist. You are listening to KHTS, your hometown station on 1220 a.m. and everyone tuning in from around the world. Again, my name is Sharon Brubaker. I'm a certified grief recovery specialist, and I am here with my hero, Alex Urbina, transformational coach. For the last few months, we've been bringing you a special broadcast on grief and recovery, healing from within. And it's been an amazing journey, If you're listening to this program, there's a huge probability that your heart is broken. It could be from death, divorce, or any recent loss in your life. We know for a fact there are 43 known losses that a person can experience over a lifetime. Alex and I are not going to tell you what a broken heart feels like because you already know. At best, we can tell you that we know what it feels like when our broken hearts occurred. And today we're on the show just trying to help you understand what grief feels like and how to navigate through it. Alex, this weekend we had an amazing experience together. Just to cue you guys all in, Alex had a transformational weekend with an amazing family, and he invited me to take part in that and really cover the grief portion of the weekend.
Yeah, we had a good friend of mine who lost his son to a very tragic accident, and he was very heartbroken and at loss of trying to figure out how to really support his family. And I thought it was very courageous of him to reach out to me and say, hey, I want to figure out how to help us heal.
Yeah.
And I was honored that he chose me, and I thought, the stars don't misalign on accident, and so I think that you and I got together at the right time, and I thought you were the perfect person to come in and really help cause that healing this weekend. You did a fantastic job, so thank you for being there and trusting me and doing what you do best. But it was a very powerful weekend, and there were some things I really kind of took down some notes, and I wanted to talk about today so that other people can kind of learn and grow along with me as well, because I'm still growing every day and learning a lot more about how to heal ourselves and get ourselves to the next level. But is it okay if I throw a few things at you?
Yeah, but before we get to that, I just want to ask you, so did all of the dots connect for you? Because you and I have been talking about grief recovery, and I keep saying all these things, and I think the dots really connected for you as far as what I bring to the table, and I think that was really cool, right? I'm really asking you that.
Yeah.
See how she does it.
Yeah, it's kind of like we could talk about it all day long in theory, but when you're in front of somebody and they're looking at you with these eyes to really kind of handhold them and walk them through that process, it was beautiful to see that. But I already knew that about you, that you're a huge heart and that you're vulnerable and you're authentic, and I think that's what really helps people feel safe and trust you. And but not only that, you had some great insight and great stories, and it was just an overall beautiful weekend, very powerful, very healing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for trusting me. And I love that you got to see what completion really is. I keep saying it, but you got to live it.
Yeah.
That's what I was getting to, is that you actually got to live it.
So that's what I want to talk about is
Perfect.
From, being third party and observing and just watching all that kind of stuff. So there's a couple things I wrote down. I really got to see in the room what it looked like when people are in a fog.
Yeah.
So to me, what it looked like is when you have a loss that's so traumatic, you can literally be walking around in a fog. And I'm sure you have moments, but as an observer watching people come in from the morning time to breaks or lunch, there was the occasional, hey, how you doing? Good to see you. And we put that face on and we put that personality on. But every once in a while, you can just very easily slip into just dazing off. And as an observer, as I'm watching people daze off, I started to see myself kind of like an observer looking down on myself when my dad passed. There must have been those moments where I would just be sitting there and people are talking or we're all in a gathering and I'm just staring off into space.
Right.
But you can't see yourself from your own perspective. You got to watch others and go, oh my God, that must have been me. So I really got to see the zoning out stage, or that part where people just kind of check out.
The absolute reduced concentration and absolutely zoning out and going into the fog. We know for a fact immediately after a grieving experience and while we're going through the grief process, that the griever will absolutely zone out. Here's the thing that is so amazing about that. The griever is doing the absolute right thing that he's supposed to be doing. They are literally zoned out. They're looking out into space. And I can tell you from my own experience, you're really not thinking about anything. There's literally nothing going on in there. You're staring. Even the eyes kind of glaze over, and you're just not paying attention to anyone or anything in the room. That is absolutely what the griever is supposed to be doing. And we know for a fact the griever will most times be doing that, and they are doing the right thing. What happens is the people around the griever and the support team, I said staff, or support family, will want to bring them out of that. We naturally, innate, know what to do, and we go to that, and then the family will try to draw them out of that because they don't want them feeling or seeing that moment. I will tell you a story that right after Donovan died, my second nephew died, and we got onto the airplane, and I looked over, my sister was sitting across the seat from me, and that's absolutely what she was doing. And I picked up my phone and I took a picture to capture it for myself. I've never shown it to anyone. I've just had it for myself. But it was like I wanted to capture that moment because she, in real time, was absolutely grieving in the fog. It doesn't bring us anything. It's just for me, I really believe it's part of our brain allowing a little bits to seep in at a time. And when it becomes too overwhelming, we just go to that place.
And that's what brings up the next thing that I wrote down, and that is the idea that as human beings, we can't handle too much pain all at once at its full capacity when we experience something so traumatic.
Yes.
That I don't know if our consciousness or our body shuts down or we numb out. And only letting in increments of the pain a little bit at a time, because you say that if we were able to feel it all at once, it would be too overwhelming.
Yes.
We would probably have a mental breakdown, or we would
Yes.
something would start to fall apart, and
Right.
so our body or our ego or something jumps in and kind of numbs us out to only let us experience a little bit at a time. And that's why it becomes a journey or a process,
Yes.
right?
Yes, that's why it becomes a journey and a process. And remember I think it was Saturday, one of the people in the room went into the fog, and I pointed it out. And I pointed it out not to point that person out, but I pointed it out because we as grieving support need to know what that is, right? And that is that they just need us to be near them. What would have been amazing would have been just going next to that person and just sitting next to them. You don't have to say a word. Sometimes words don't have to be said. And so just sitting next to them. But getting to your question, absolutely. The brain cannot take the full magnitude. And there is points in our life where we forget the person is gone. I don't know about you, but I remember the feeling of wanting to call my dad and being like, oh, let me call my dad. It takes a while for you really to understand that. And so this fog and then the roller coaster of emotions that we go through is the process of allowing the reality to absolutely seep in.
And is that part of where the acceptance comes in, like at the very final end of that process where we just accept it finally, or that they are gone? And then in between those moments, we get like kind of moments that we forget. Is that what you're explaining?
I don't know that for me, I don't know that there was a moment where I just absolutely accepted it. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, and buts about accepting it. I got the call and then I was there. It wasn't
but if you have a moment where you're like, oh, let me call, and then in that moment you realize, oh, he's not here to call.
He's not here anymore. He's not here anymore. Well, I think for me it's recovery. I don't call it acceptance. I call it recovery.
Okay.
So or completion. So once I was complete with my relationship, then that need and feeling to call didn't happen anymore. What did happen would be things like, oh man, we made this great gumbo. How cool is this? Dad would have really enjoyed this. So it looks a little different. It looks like the fond memories and remembering Dad being there and him, if he had been there, how much he would have enjoyed it.
Yeah.
It was more like that.
Right. Another thing I learned this weekend that really resonated with me and I just got more clarity on was that just because you don't cry or express your emotions doesn't mean that you're not grieving. And you were able to land that very distinctively for me this weekend. as well as being that observer and watching some people just not giving themselves permission at specific times, that I would think that would probably trigger something, and it doesn't.
Right.
But yet something off the wall triggers it, and it's like, you crying for that when we were doing this? So it really painted that picture that just because they're not crying doesn't mean they're not grieving.
Right.
And it's going to hit, little things are going to be triggers that I can't make up those stories. It just has to happen organically.
Absolutely. So I share a story where when Austin died, that tears may or may not be a sign of grief. And we need to be okay with whatever that is. Someone may totally be crying. Think about a couple. You hear about how when couples go through loss of a child or a parent, where one thinks one's grieving too much and the other one thinks you're not grieving enough. One may be crying a lot and the other one's not crying at all. And so he could say, you cry too much. And she's like, well, you're not crying at all. You know, that sort of thing. But tears aren't a sign of the amount of pain we have in our heart. So Austin dies. It's about a week after his death. I'm getting ready to go to the funeral. I'm in Macy's. I need to buy some pants and some shoes to wear to the funeral. I'm walking around, and literally the thoughts going through my head are, I'm buying clothes to wear to my nephew's funeral. But I wasn't crying. I wasn't telling the sales lady, I'm going to a funeral, I'm wearing these pants to a funeral. It wasn't like that. But my heart was absolutely broken. That was one of the most profound things that I learned when I went through grief recovery myself for the first time, that I absolutely loved, that I absolutely hung to. The other thing that will happen is that we may not cry for the death. We notice this a lot with children. They may not cry when their dad or mom dies, but they'll cry when their friend doesn't give them the right color crayon. And they'll cry when they didn't get the macaroni and cheese that they wanted. In actuality, they're actually crying for their parent, but they don't know how to attach those emotional words and that verbal conversation to it. And so they'll cry for all sorts of things other than that.
Yeah, I know for me, allowing myself to cry from that broken heart was such a relieving experience. It was such a freeing experience. I felt like me experiencing that pain was equal to me acknowledging how much I love them and how much I miss them.
Yeah.
So I just, for whatever reason, gave myself permission to feel my feelings and experience my experiences.
Right.
And through that process, I feel like I went through a healthy grieving stage, or I went through that process of, like you said, completing that relationship. And so, you know, if you are a crier and if you are very emotional and in touch with your emotions and it feels good, I would say go with what you're feeling.
Go with what you're feeling.
Like surrender.
Surrender.
But don't psychoanalyze if you're not. Don't beat yourself up because you feel like you have to, or compare it to anyone else that is a little bit more sensitive and trusts themselves a little more and lets it go. Don't be, because then you're going up to your head and then you're making yourself bad and wrong because it doesn't look the way you think it should look.
Right. So we don't minimize our losses, and we don't compare our losses, and we don't apologize for our human feelings. We don't apologize for human feelings. So if you're crying, there's no apology there. I tell all of my clients when they sit with me, you are a grown adult. If you choose to sit across from me and let the tears and the snot run down your face, that's a choice you're making. I'm absolutely okay with it. Please, by all means, don't stuff it in because you think that it's going to offend me. The tears are a sign, an outward sign of our love and our broken heart. It's perfectly okay. It's also perfectly okay if we're not crying. I know I have had clients, especially older women, that say, I haven't cried in years. Tears just don't come from me anymore. People are going to judge me because my husband's died and I'm not showing any tears. And that's not true. And that's why people need to understand tears may not be there. But trust the process of whichever one shows up for you. Crying or not, trust the process. I do both.
I love it. The other thing that I really got clear about this weekend was the completing of the relationship. More importantly, and especially with the unspoken communication that I might not have gotten a chance to say.
Yes.
Whether it was I'm sorry for,
yes,
or please forgive me for, or I forgive you for.
Yes.
Or what I'm going to miss most about you is.
Yeah.
All these things that when somebody goes, in an instant,
Yes.
it leaves us with so much that now in hindsight, looking back, going, oh my God, I never told her this.
Yeah.
I never said that. So that feeling of not being able to have that person physically in front of us with those eyeballs staring back,
Right.
with that energy called love behind those eyes, and that soul to really just communicate this so that I know that I'm being heard
Yes.
with what I want to communicate, like I love you, or I appreciate you, or you're the best thing that ever happened to me. I never get a chance. I don't have that opportunity anymore with the person physically.
Right.
But there are other tools to be able to communicate it such that I can feel like now I've said it, now it's been heard, now it's validated, and now I can heal from it.
Yes. And
You were able to kind of open that process up for this family, and I thought it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, so now I can be set free. I can forgive and be set free. Typically what happens, it's the grief is the unspoken communication of an emotional nature. It's typically of an emotional nature that's attached to the loss, right? We can grieve someone who's still alive. Think of someone who's, and I've shared this with you before, but like a divorce, where the divorce is really ugly. I can't go up to my ex-husband and say, you've been a jerk my whole marriage. I'm glad that I'm letting you go. Forgive me for this, forgive me for that. He's not going to hear that because the energy in that setting is too explosive.
Yeah.
But in real time, and on your own, we can walk through that relationship and we can complete that relationship, all the things that we have to say. So when Donovan died in 2015, 21 years old, on a motorcycle, I was not able to complete with him. He was taken from me in an instant. We saw him in the morning, and the next day I was getting a call from the sheriff. I had to sit and review my relationship with Donovan and think of all the things I needed to tell him. And sometimes those things are really simple. It could be as simple as, I want to thank you for being on this journey with me and what value you added to my life. And I wouldn't be who I am without you. Something as simple as that.
Absolutely. The other thing that I really got, clear about was that saying goodbye out loud is really powerful. And then I got to see how some people, even though you gave instructions
Yeah.
And gave them permission,
Yeah.
whether they wanted it or needed it or not, and really explain the value of it, how much we as human beings don't want to get to that place if we feel we're not ready.
Yeah.
Then I got to see the ones that courageously forced themselves to say it.
Right.
And then I got to watch them break down like a little baby.
Right.
And just let all of whatever they were holding on to in those words by saying goodbye and then their name.
Right.
It was powerful, and it was amazing, and it was healing, but to watch somebody do that, and then watch some of the ones that weren't going to go there no matter what you told them or what instructions you gave them, is just, and to watch that happen was a pretty cool experience.
I remember for myself when I sat in grief recovery for the first time and I heard that part of our work was going to be saying goodbye. I absolutely fought back. Because the thought of saying goodbye to Austin was not even anywhere on my scale of a possibility.
Yeah.
But in actuality, we're not saying goodbye to the person. We're saying goodbye to the pain and all of the communication that was left uncommunicated, unsaid, all the things that we didn't get a chance to say. I have to say goodbye to this pain in my heart so that I can be open to my new life with you and with the fond memories. And we're going to take a quick break here in just a second, but we can talk more about the growth that makes and the power in just those two words. And even the people that didn't put it on their letters, for sure.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. So Santa Clarita, we want you to stay tuned. You're listening to a live broadcast, KHTS, with Sharon and Alex, and we'll be back in just a second.
Daily Imprints is the premier one-stop shop for custom embroidery, screen printing, and promotional products in the Santa Clarita Valley. Owners Joe and Dana have provided KHTS with quality embroidered company shirts for over 3 years. If it's new business cards or promotional products you need to enhance your image, Daily Imprints is the choice for you. Located on Lyons Avenue, stop by or call today, 661-678-0508.
Drugs or alcohol abuse can tear a family apart. In Santa Clarita, just like everywhere else, it's an epidemic. The Way Out Recovery is here to help. Call them now at 296-4444 or visit them on the web at thewayoutrocoveryscv.com. The Way Out offers outpatient treatment for adolescents, adults, and family members. The Way Out is compassionate, caring, professional, and confidential. You and your family don't have to suffer any longer. Call The Way Out Recovery now, 296-4444, or visit thewayoutrocoveryscv.com and make an appointment. Asking for help is the first step.
Hometown, your hometown station.
One more day.
5:30 a.m.
Don't miss it.
La Esmeralda is home to truly authentic Mexican food. This family-owned restaurant prides itself on its fresh-to-order menu. Even the tortillas are made in-house. If you have a taste for sizzling fajitas, flautas, or menudo, you have to try La Esmeralda's Mexican and Seafood Restaurant. Dine in or order out for the most authentic Mexican food Santa Clarita has to offer. Their Taco Tuesday, it'll turn you into a regular. La Esmeralda on Bouquet at Haskell. KHTS is searching for veterans who are looking to start a new career. We've teamed with the Lifton Institute right here in Santa Clarita. If you're a vet, they've designed a program just for you. In 10 short weeks, you'll develop the skills to land a job in the film and TV industry. Lifton grads are placed in industry jobs. Free, unique career training right here in Santa Clarita. For more information, visit jobsforscvvets.com. There's no catch. It's free, but it's up to you. Jobsforscvvets.com.
Hometown, your hometown station.
Welcome back, Santa Clarita, and everyone listening in from around the world. You are listening to a special broadcast here at KHTS, your hometown station. I'm Sharon Brubaker, Certified Grief Recovery Specialist. I'm joined by Alex Urbina, Transformational Coach, and we're talking through grief and loss, but particularly an event that we did this weekend where we were at a transformational seminar and there were actually grievers there, and we slowly but surely loved them and carefully walked them through the grieving process, and we're sharing that experience today with everyone here. Just a quick reminder, we are Facebook Live, which we absolutely love. Please, 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 if you're listening and you can't catch us on the radio, but you'd like to ask us a question, type it in the box on the Facebook Live. We'll try and get to your question on the show. And if not, Alex and myself will answer those questions after the show. Thank you so much. We were talking about saying goodbye and saying goodbye to the person who's no longer here and saying goodbye to the pain. And just before the break, I shared that when I was told in my own experience of grief recovery that I had to say goodbye to Austin, I went kicking and screaming. But we know as a fact, as grief recovery specialists, we know that there's two parts of it that is so totally powerful. And that one part is the saying goodbye to the pain, but the second part is having someone there who listens and hears you with respect, the heart with ears, and you're saying the words verbally out loud. Those are the healing components of the grief recovery.
One of the things that I opened up the possibility for the group was, and I don't know if they were thinking about it or not, but I threw it out there just in case it was able to help somebody get off of or get over or get unstuck from thinking they were saying goodbye forever.
Yeah.
Was the possibility that we can say goodbye to the kind of relationship that we had,
yes,
which was a physical relationship, yes, where the person was alive and right in front of us in real time.
Right.
And maybe just because you're saying goodbye to that relationship doesn't mean that you're saying goodbye to all relationships. Because for me, I felt like when my dad transitioned, he transitioned into a different form. Therefore, I still continued the relationship.
Yes.
It's just in a different form.
Yes.
So if you were to ask me to say goodbye in some kind of a training like this, or a workshop, or a one-on-one, or a group session, I think for me, I would justify it like, okay, I can say goodbye to the physical form that we once shared, where you're able to sit across from me, I'm looking at your eyes, I'm holding your hands, but that doesn't mean I'm saying goodbye forever.
Absolutely.
So by me being able to find that perspective, I was able to empower myself to go ahead and say goodbye so that I can have that experience of, like you said, completing that form of relationship, and then now getting excited to move on and transition into more of a spiritual connection and a spiritual relationship with my father.
Right. And we set our heart free from the pain. You know, so that I can be free. I set my heart free from the pain that I'm carrying and the pain of the loss. And by saying goodbye, we're opened up to the possibility of our future with that person in a new form, exactly like you say. So fond memories of them will return. You will be able to talk about them. I can talk about Austin and Donovan with joy in my life. Donovan was the relationship that I shared so much this weekend, and it was like hanging out with him again. I even thanked everyone in the room. Thank you for allowing me to spend this time with Donovan. I am still the aunt of Austin and Donovan. I still have 2 nephews, Austin and Donovan. I'm still the daughter of Tony. I'm Sharon, the daughter of Tony. So I still have those people in my life. They're just in a different form.
And I'm spiritual, so I believe that Donovan was there this weekend.
Oh yeah.
So when you chuckled and had that little moment, to me, it was no doubt in my mind that he came in, put his hand on your shoulder, and said, "Hey, thanks, Auntie, for talking about me and remembering me and still honoring me, and especially honoring him in a way where you can help other people."
Yes.
What a beautiful way to honor his life, right?
Yeah. And it was really cool when I knew I was going to the weekend with you, and I sat with Erica and we talked, and she and I both agreed that Donovan was the relationship that we should share this weekend because it most mimicked them, and they would be most relatable to them, and it was really cool.
Yeah. You shared a little bit about sharing the fun memories.
Yeah.
I got a glimpse of them meaning the family this weekend. We're having little glimpses and little moments of them sharing,
right?
Which I thought was pretty cool because I saw a healing process in the sharing of, do you remember the time when he did this and he tricked us? And so all that, it kind of lit everyone up, and it was a change of pace. And it was kind of like an organic flow. So if we were dealing with certain things and we were on a break and they were talking about that, it was the upswing, and then there's the downswing.
Yeah.
So or a breath, right? You take a breath in, you take a breath out. So I thought it was refreshing to watch them all laugh and talk about him. And I see that quite often in other families that are mourning the passing of someone they love, whether it's that same night or it's 2 days later, or if it's right after the awake, they all go to dinner, or you'll see it in glimpses where they all get around and go, remember that time he did this or she did that. It's kind of like a moment where we all get to come together and just share those moments with each other, because I'm not always there when he was doing things with you, but by you sharing it makes me feel like I was actually there watching it and experiencing it with you.
And I think that was one of the things that we did. We innately did it in my family when Austin died. Literally, from the very moment that he was gone, we never stopped talking about Austin. That was so huge in our healing process. Everybody that walked in, and to this day, if our family is together, either Donovan or Austin or both comes up in conversation, and it is like they're still with us, and we laugh. We're really trying to figure out kind of where Austin would be, because he was 10. What would he be like at a 21-year-old, and would he be into this? And he
would get on the mic and say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
When I get a girlfriend. And we still talk about all that stuff, and it's laugh. And you know what? Sometimes tears come out too. Mm-hmm. Sometimes tears come out too, and there are tears of joy, tears of family, and tears of love, and it's absolutely okay. But the absolute broken heart part is not there. It's not there.
Yeah. One of the things that I really learned this weekend, not only as a concept, but watching somebody embody it, was the statement that you say when you tell somebody, lean into the pain.
Yes.
I saw a mom that was heartbroken for the loss of, her grandson.
Yeah.
And the sharing on day one just was so powerful and really overwhelming to the point where she had a headache.
Yeah.
And the headache, we feel pain or we feel any kind of resistance. The first thing our ego wants to do is to run and hide, right?
Yes.
Like go home, go to sleep, take a nap. And you gave this woman permission to lean into it.
Yes.
And you did it in such a beautiful way that she probably couldn't see it herself, but she was willing to jump onto your invitation.
Yeah.
And say like, all right, I'll give it a shot. And it was exactly what she needed to realize what it felt like to lean into it. We're not saying dive in.
Yeah.
We're just saying lean into it a little bit more.
Lean in a little bit.
And if it's too much, sit down, take a break, and then find the courage to stand back up and lean in again. But it became just multiple moments this whole weekend of everybody just constantly leaning in.
Yeah.
And what a beautiful experience. But tell me a little bit more about what leaning in means so that people understand what that is.
I will absolutely go there, but I want to say that I think for the rest of my life that will be one of the most beautiful moments because, man, it makes me want to cry right now just thinking about it. She didn't even want to walk in the room. She was so grief-stricken and heartbroken. Mm-hmm. She didn't want to walk in the room. And then the first thing that happened was I didn't even know her. I hadn't even met her. She came up to me and goes, honey, I'm not going to stay. And I gave her a hug. And that energy that we shared with that hug, and she said, I have a headache. I said, I have some Advil in my car. And if I get the Advil, would you agree to stay for 1 hour and just lean in and just kind of go with it? And she agreed, and she came into the room. And after 1 hour, I said, you don't know my story, but I think if you hear my story, it'll encourage you. And after 1 hour, she stayed in. And so what leaning in means not resisting, not pushing back. Sometimes and this happened for me when Austin died, I pushed back. I pushed back against grief. I pushed back against the pain. I even pushed back against grief recovery. I was sort of a pain in the katukas during the grief recovery. I didn't want to do it. And when we're pushing back against it, it makes it so much harder. The struggle is real and it's absolutely there.
Yeah, that pushback is the resistance I talk about.
It's the resistance.
And resistance causes headaches.
Yes.
The resistance causes you to be sleepy.
Yeah.
The resistance causes you to want to find a way to go hide out or check out or be by yourself. And the leaning in is that invitation to go, no, it's okay. If you just lean into it, you'll find a new reason to kind of hang in there.
So you lean in and you go with it. And it's almost like sitting forward just a little bit. Like, I'm going to go with this. My heart is broken right now. I know I want to just roll up in a ball. But I'm going to sit here for 1 minute and just hear what she has to say and see if anything is for me. That's what was happening there. A leaning in can take place on a daily basis. So grief is awful and painful and hurtful. But leaning into it and going with it makes the ride a little smoother. It's not so jerky. That's the best way that I can describe it. If you lean into it a little bit, it's not so jerky.
Let me ask you a question. In some societies, can it not be an awful, painful experience? And the reason why I'm bringing that up is, what would it be like if we lived in a world where you were just born into a world where when people passed, we saw it as a celebration of them moving on to transitioning onto a different life or a beautiful life, and then we decided that it's not a painful or an awful thing or a tragic thing. Is that more of just finding a new belief or a new perspective to look at it that empowers you?
No, I think the grief is still there because there's still incomplete communication. And I'm sharing this from my own personal experience. So my very best friend of 15 years passed away in June. And so one day when I was in the hospital with her, she said to me, I don't want a funeral. I want a celebration. And I said, okay. And these were the instructions that I was given. I want a DJ and I want you to serve fried chicken. That's what she told me. I hired a DJ. We had an ice cream bar. We had a candy bar. We served fried chicken. We served her favorite shrimp. We partied. We celebrated. There was no funeral. But I still grieved. There were still things left in my heart that I still needed to share. So death can be beautiful. There's parts of it that are absolutely beautiful, and we can share in that. but whatever is left unspoken in our heart can still be there.
Yeah, no, I get that part.
I think what is harder, and unlike that one, what you're sharing there, is the cultures where we don't speak ill will of the dead, we wear black and mourn, and we don't talk about them. I think that one is even harder than where we're actually talking about them.
No, I'm just talking about a possibility that maybe as a society we can evolve to a place where we start to see the passing of someone as a beautiful experience, to the point that we meaning I, get to start realizing that I get to start communicating honestly and courageously with my loved ones every day, all day long, to the point that when they do pass, I don't have those miscommunications and that unresolved feeling, because I took those moments to really constantly remind them how much they mean to me, where I don't have the regrets, where I'm not being left with those withholds, to the point where it's like when they go, it was like, man, I already feel complete, because, and sometimes you'll hear people that either had cancer, and you got a chance 6 months to be able to seize those moments and really communicate that honestly and courageously.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I totally misunderstood your question. I agree with you 100%. Can you imagine if we taught grief in school from a very young age?
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. How do we, and maybe it starts with just conversations like this on the radio, where, and to where we're talking about it all the time, to where it's not so taboo.
Right, because one of the things I shared is love is the product of truthful communication. When we can truthfully communicate with somebody, be good, bad, or ugly, that we're loving them.
Right.
And what if we truthfully communicated with someone every single day? What if my husband took the trash out and I said, thank you. Thank you for all that you do for this family. Thank you for being that person. Thank you for showing up and being that man. What if that happened on a daily basis? Yes, absolutely. We can speak in real time and speak love truthfully and make it an amazing process for sure.
And the reason why I'm bringing that up is because that's one of the things that I'm slowly starting to realize from all the passings that I've been at. Like, I don't want to go to one more funeral again and stand up there and say, hey, let's seize the moment and let's not wait to get here in front of the podium where we're, talking how amazing they were, and let's tell them all that while they're alive. Let's have those celebrations. Let's move our schedule around so when they have that birthday party, we can be there, and so and have the courage to express our gratitude to them while it's happening in real time.
Right.
And then in the teen trainings that I do, I have that very powerful experience where I mock the death of the loved ones of some of the kids.
Yes.
And they actually get a chance to stand in front of a mom or a dad and say, I'm so sorry that, and I wish that would. And so they get an experience to have that wake-up call to really learn that how to seize the moment and be courageous in that moment and express yourself wholeheartedly like that. So that's what I was talking about, which is, I think what you and I are on that mission for is that vision we have of a world where we're learning how to be emotionally honest and courageous enough to tell those people now, so that we don't have the regrets when someone passes.
Absolutely. And you're living it out in your own life. I see it in just you and your family, the way you're raising your children, the way your daughters and your son, the relationship they have with you, the way you guys handle conversations. You are absolutely the model of that.
Well, it's a practice.
I know,
it's a practice.
I know, but I'm giving you your kudos because I think that. Think about that. I mean, your children have the space to come up to you and say whatever they need to say, and you're going to accept it and listen to it. It's all the ones that we haven't learned that yet. We haven't learned the process yet, and we're causing all this pain because we haven't learned the process of truthful communication.
And if we're really observant and watching other people be heartbroken because they have those resentments, why not learn from those? Why not go, wow, I don't want to be that, so let me now learn from that because I'm at this funeral of my next door neighbor, or I'm here to support my friend's loss of her cousin, and take those and then go back into my home and start implementing that which I just learned a couple hours ago at the funeral.
Yeah, and one of the things that you and I joke about is how no one ever wants to be my friend because I'm always talking about grief. Or
mine, because I'm always calling them on stuff or challenging them. Yeah, people avoid us like the plague, right?
We're the two people with no friends, everyone. But Could you imagine if they allowed us to get into kindergarten and then just work with the kids and then and they were raised up under that, or just working with the parents and saying, look, don't ask your kid how they're doing. Have a conversation with them. Tell them today, hey, I really missed you while you were at school today, and I remember Grandpa. And I remember when Grandpa took you horseback riding. You remember how fun that was? I was thinking about Grandpa today. And just be quiet after that and give little Johnny a space to have that conversation.
And what you're describing is what the foundation of my workshops are, like my parent workshops or even my communication workshops. But it's a challenge to get people to want to see the value of learning that and discovering that and figuring out how to find the courage within them to articulate themselves or communicate like that. Because I think most of us live in the illusion, like, I already do that.
Right.
I already say that to my kids.
Yeah.
And as a person that empowers and inspires people, you don't want to go, come on, really?
Yeah.
Right? The last thing I want to throw at you is one of the things I really realized this weekend was that the people that we love the most when they're gone, they might not really be that perfect angel that we want them to be, right? And you call it, what's the word you call it? You call it like we put them on, it's almost like put them on this pedestal.
Oh, yeah, so bedevil or enshrine.
We enshrine. We make them this perfect angel because some of the completing of the relationship is we got to talk about the good and the bad.
We have to talk about
the good and bad. And a lot of times we don't want, when they're gone, we don't want to talk about when they were being a jerk.
Yeah.
Or when they did, take stuff to us and lie.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden we have amnesia and we don't want to remember that
We
part.
don't want to remember that, yeah. So we're gonna take a quick break, but when we come back, we're gonna talk about enshrining and bedeviling and telling the truth about ourselves always and what that means
and why
how
it's
we get to
important.
that point and why it's so important. So stay tuned with us, everybody. You're listening to KHTS, your hometown station, with Sharon and Alex. Thank you.
Little Eye Leaders is the newest preschool in the Santa Clarita Valley. At Little Eye Leaders, our outstanding teachers lead with intellect, perspective, and heart. That means our programs provide a warm, nurturing atmosphere to meet the unique needs of each child. We believe that play is a powerful form of learning for young children. That's why our kids have every opportunity to learn through the magic and excitement of play. Parents, schedule a tour today by calling 303-0400 or online at littleeyeleaders.org.
Do you see it? It should be around here somewhere.
No. What was that address again?
Your building sign is essential to getting customers into your location. Feathers can help get your business noticed. They'll walk you through each phase of your building sign project, providing special attention to detail and quality. Feathers will give you a sign you can be proud of. Your building sign will draw customers in instead of having them drive by. Feathers on Soledad in Canyon Country, across from the Edwards Theater.
Aloha, friends! We invite you to come by Honu Coffee, home of the best cold brewed coffee. What makes our coffee special is how our organic coffee beans are infused with nitrogen to create a smooth and delicious cup of coffee. You'll also find traditional bold coffees and island-inspired signature drinks. We're the perfect place to catch up with friends or just relax with your favorite cup of joe. Honu Coffee on Lyons Avenue and Walnut in Newhall. Stop by and say aloha!
The Las Vegas shooting created awareness for all of us. Awareness to upgrade security at concerts. Awareness for clearly marked exit signs. Awareness on how to evacuate safely. And awareness to have tighter hotel security. The law offices of Owen Patterson Owen are working diligently with Las Vegas victims to prevent future tragedies from occurring, as well as protecting the rights of Las Vegas victims to receive financial assistance for their ordeal. If you know someone impacted by the shooting, visit opolaw.com. That's opolaw.com.
Hometown, your hometown station.
One more days.
5:30 a.m.
Don't miss it.
I love it.
Right on!
Your hometown station.
Welcome back, Santa Clarita. You're listening to a special broadcast with Sharon Brubaker, Certified Grief Recovery Specialist, and Alex Urbina, Transformational Coach. Today we're discovering grief and loss and how to move past it, through it, in a powerful way. And just prior to the break, we were discussing enshrining and bedeviling. How, when someone dies, we can either enshrine them or bedevil them, and how that process happens. And Alex was asking me to clear that up, so I'm going to share a little bit. It would have not been, and it did happen to me, first 8 months after Austin died, I absolutely did enshrine him. Think about this. He was 10 years old, and he drowned. And in my mind, he was this perfect little kid because I wasn't telling the truth about myself. I wasn't telling the truth about him, and I wasn't allowing the truth to be told. Truth be told, there were instances where I actually, as an aunt, there were times where he was difficult and he was stubborn. And one time in particular I share where he wouldn't get out of the car. And he was around 7 years old, and I had a hard time getting him out of the car. So if I'm really going to tell the truth about my relationship with Austin, I had to say it wasn't all peaches and cream. If we're not willing to tell the truth about ourselves, we run the risk of enshrining or bedeviling. Bedeviling can happen sometimes. You've seen this person. It's after a divorce, and the person that they've been married to for 30 years now all of a sudden is the worst person ever, and no one should hang out with them, and they just bedevil that person because they're not willing to tell the truth. They're not willing to look in their heart and tell the truth about what really happened.
But other people in the family, they know the truth.
Yeah.
They're the ones going, wait a minute, I saw you share 25 beautiful years with this person, and now all of a sudden they're the worst person in the world. So you're not fooling anybody other than yourself because you're living in this paradigm or this belief system that you've created that they're one or the other, not the possibility that they could be both, and it's just certain times. Certain times he was an amazing, loving human being. There's other times that he had his moments where he lost his cool or his temper, but that makes us all human.
Yeah.
And instead of saying, but that's what I loved about him was that he was free to just choose to be whoever he wanted, you know?
And we can get stuck there, though, Alex, as well. So think about the person with the divorce. They can get stuck for years and years. You can go and see them, and every time you come around them, no matter what you're talking about, it goes to this bedeviling part. Or we get stuck in the enshrining that the person that has died was always the best ever. I'm not saying that they're not the best. I'm just saying if we're truthfully looking at the situation, we know that we don't want to get stuck in either of those categories. We want to tell the truth always about ourselves and about them.
Right, just like I talked about the breath, that there's the inhale and the exhale, and everything you do, there's always an upswing, a downswing, and it's just going to be that rather than just it's always like this all the time.
Absolutely.
Like you said, no one's perfect.
Yeah.
We all have those flaws, and you know, and it's you have to just learn to laugh at some of those and learn to love that that's just their quirkiness, or that's just them when they're stubborn or they're angry, and I love you anyways.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes we have to bring them around to that part of really wanting to tell the truth, because you witnessed that on the first day, some of them only had the positive things. They only wanted to talk about the positive aspects. But think about a tragic death of a young person, car accident. I can only see the good things about them. But I gently just kept working and working and said, come on, tell me your truths. Tell me your truths. And eventually those started to appear.
Yeah.
And that's where healing comes from.
Before we wrap up, real quick, I'm going to throw the last topic in. What about the people that get really angry because they were victimized, or their loved one was victimized by maybe someone that, you know, robbed them or killed them or took advantage of them or took their life? It's very easy, I think, to create that box that we put that person, and now all of our anger is towards that person because you did this to me. You've taken this person from my life.
Well, we take the victim mentality, and then they become the bad guy, right? So we have to have a bad guy situation. What happens with that is, let's say, for example, if you visualize an artichoke, right? When we peel off the first layer, so that's the first layer is our grief work with our loved one. When we peel off that first layer of the artichoke, there's all these prickly parts in there, right? That's another area that we have to deal with. We literally have to grieve that anger and that pain associated with that loss. So we peel off the next layer and we keep going. And what is revealed inside the artichoke is the heart. We're trying to get to the true heart. And sometimes the person has to go there, and they have to understand that that's an area that they have to grieve as well. It's a little bit more difficult to get there sometimes, But when they can do it is when the real recovery is going to come. And I'm speaking from personal experience, for sure.
What a great metaphor, and it paints a beautiful picture of the process that it's going to take.
Yes.
So kudos to all of those of you that are very courageous and are willing to embrace the whole journey.
Yes.
And just one day at a time, just keep plugging in with a conscious intention to keep healing yourself.
To keep healing yourself.
Yeah.
And remember, we talk about this often, that it's not always easy to go it alone. Sometimes you need a guide like you or myself to help walk them through that, to just let them know they're walking the right path, they're leaning in correctly, what you're doing is okay, grief is normal and natural, and we're going to get through the other end of this dark tunnel.
And time heals is a myth, because time alone doesn't heal. Time with committed, intentional action heals you.
Yes, action within time and actually walking the steps and doing what you need to do.
Because you can let 50 years go by with no intentional work and still be in the grieving process.
Absolutely, 100%.
Love it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
This was amazing. What a great weekend. It was really great. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here at KHTS, your hometown station.